bad dream house. The Simpsons find themselves in a comedic take on the Amityville horror as they settle into a new house with an irresistible price tag. Lisa and Marge can't shake off their fears of an ominous force hiding within the house, while Homer dismisses their concerns, even with a peculiar vortex discovered in the kitchen. Ignoring the warning signs, Homer playfully tosses an orange into the vortex, only to have it promptly returned with a note requesting them not to throw anything inside. As tensions escalate, Bart finds himself entangled by a mischievous lamp cord, while the house itself starts to manage the family, hurling Homer skyward and clinging to the ceiling. During an unsettling night, the house possesses Homer and the children, driving them to grab weapons and turn against each other. Thankfully, Marge intervenes, stopping the chaos. Later on, the family discovers an ancient Indian burial ground in the cellar, and the house ominously threatens their gruesome demise. Fed up, Marge confronts the house, demanding it to show some manners, and surprisingly, it complies. Determined to assert their presence, Marge declares that the house will have to accept their occupancy. The house requests a moment alone to decide its fate, which ultimately it chooses self-destruction and implodes into nothingness. Hungry Are the Damned. In a parody of Damon Knight's story To Serve Man and his Twilight Zone adaptation, the Simpsons are having a backyard barbecue when they are unexpectedly abducted by an alien spaceship. On the spaceship, they encounter Cain, Kodos, and Sirac the Preparer, who treat them hospitably and provide an abundance of food for the upcoming great feast. As the family is weighed on a massive scale and the Rigelians insistently reference food, Lisa becomes suspicious and questions their true intentions. Curious, she ventures into the aliens' kitchen one night and witnesses Sirac preparing a dish to enhance the flavor of humans. Lisa discovers a book titled How to Cook Human and hastily accuses the Rigelians of planning to devour them. However, the full title of the book, How to Cook for 40 Humans, is revealed, changing the context. The Rigelians feel hurt, disappointed, and angry at the family's mistrust. They decide to punish them by returning them back to Earth. Cain and Kodos express that the Simpsons could have lived luxuriously, but now must face a normal human existence. As the aliens depart, Lisa reflects sadly that the true monsters were their own family. However, the rest of the Simpsons disagree, as only Lisa inaccurately suspected the aliens' intentions. Marge scolds her daughter, remarking that her intelligence sometimes works against her, and Bart and Homer sarcastically thank Lisa for squandering their chance at a prosperous life. The Raven. In a comedic rendition of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, the Simpson family takes on the roles of the characters. The Raven narrator, portrayed by Homer, reads a book in an attempt to forget his lost love, Lenore, which is played by Marge. A mysterious knocking sound captures his intention, but upon investigation, he discovers a raven, but outside the window. As the raven enters the room and perches above the door, it amusingly exclaims, "Eat my shorts," which was uttered by Bart, but then interrupted by Lisa, clarifying that the raven only says nevermore. The raven continues to repeat the word nevermore, gradually driving the narrator to madness. Desperate to catch the mischievous bird, he unwittingly provokes it, causing the raven to drop books on him. Ultimately, the disturbed narrator finds himself lying amidst a sea of books, with the raven laughing at his predicament. During their trip to Morocco, the Simpsons stumbled upon a mysterious marketplace where Homer couldn't resist buying a monkey's paw. The vendor warned them about the consequences of making wishes with the paw, but Homer disregarded his advice, believing that he knew best. Upon returning home, the family had different ideas about how to use the paw. Maggie wished for a golden pacifier, and Bart wished for the family to become rich and famous. At first, everything seemed to be going great, and the family became the talk of the town, appearing on everything from billboards to t-shirts. However, the fame and fortune soon attracted negative attention, and the family became the subject of public backlash. Lisa decided to make a wish for world peace, but little did she know that her wish would attract the attention of the aliens Cain and Kodos, who saw the Earth as vulnerable and easy to conquer. Homer decided to make another wish. This time he wished for a simple turkey sandwich without any weird surprises. To his relief, the sandwich appeared to be perfect, except for the turkey being a little dry. Later on, Ned Flanders found the monkey's paw and used it to make a wish to get rid of the aliens, freeing the human race and becoming a hero. However, his subsequent wish for a castle made Homer angry and jealous. In Bart's nightmare, his mind has taken on supernatural abilities that allow him to manipulate reality itself. He is a godlike figure that can read the thoughts of others. This has turned the town into a fearful place where everyone is forced to be happy and cater to Bart's every whim. One afternoon, Bart returns home from school and demands to watch his favorite show, Krusty the Clown, but his father Homer refuses. In a fit of rage, Bart teleports Homer to the football stadium him, replacing the football and sending him crashing into the field post. Seeking revenge, Homer tries to attack Bart with a chair, but Bart turns him into a jack-in-the-box instead. Marge, desperate to help her family, takes Bart and Homer to Dr. Marvin Monroe. The doctor suggests that the two of them should spend more time together doing father-son activities. Homer takes Bart to a baseball game, fishing, shooting a BB gun, church, and an amusement park, and Bart starts to soften as he enjoys the quality time with his dad and decides to turn Homer back to his normal self, and the nightmare ends. In Homer's surreal dream, he finds himself fired for dozing off on the job. In a twist of fate, he becomes a gravedigger and accidentally falls asleep in one of the open graves. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns and Smithers are in a search of the perfect brain for their diabolical experiment to create the ultimate worker. They stumble upon the snoozing Homer, thinking he's already departed this life, and decide to take his brain for their twisted scheme. Mr. Burns is utterly disappointed with the result and orders Smithers to return Homer's brain to its rightful place. But things take a bizarre turn when the robot falls over and crushes Mr. Burns, leaving the rich tycoon in need of emergency medical attention. Homer wakes up in a cold sweat and realizes that it was all just a nightmare. However, to his horror, he discovers that Mr. Burns' head is still attached to his body in the real world, which Homer goes on to complain that he hates having two heads. Clown without pity. Bart's birthday is in full swing, and he's got a pile of amazing presents and even his grandpa's social security money. But there's one problem: Homer forgot to get a gift. In a panic, he rushes to the House of Evil, a one-stop shop for all your evil needs, where he picks up a talking Krusty doll. The store also sells a frozen yogurt called Frogurt. That's good! Despite its innocent appearance, the Krusty doll turns out to be quite malicious towards Homer, repeatedly attempting to kill him and making advances on Lisa's Malibu Stacy doll. After capturing the evil toy in a bag of dirty socks and disposing of it in a bottomless pit, Homer thinks the nightmare is over. However, the doll manages to follow him home and tries to drown him in Santa's Little Helper's water bowl. Desperate for help, Marge calls Krusty Co, and the repairman arrives to fix the doll's accidental switch. Though forgiven, the doll becomes Homer's servant and shares Lisa's dollhouse with Malibu Stacy. But the happy scene ends in a horror as the doll's affectionate gesture towards Malibu Stacy results in her head falling off. King Homer. The scene shifts to a black and white parody of the classic 1933 film King Kong, with Marge joining Mr. Burns and Smithers on an expedition to Ape Island in search of the fabled King Homer. However, Burns double-crosses Marge and uses her as bait to lure the giant ape. When King Homer arrives, he proceeds to take out a good chunk of Burns' crew. Burns tries to sedate the ape with a gas bomb, but only ends up gassing himself, prompting Smithers to toss the grenade and finally tranquilize King Homer. Burns returns to America with his captive, parading King Homer on Broadway for the press. But when the camera flashes Anger the Ape, he breaks free and wreaks havoc on the city, devouring people left and right, including Shirley Temple during the performance. He even tries to climb the Empire State Building but can't even get off the ground. Exhausted, King Homer collapses, prompting Marge to suggest he eat more veggies and fewer people. The story ends with the ape and Marge getting married on the same day Dick Cavett was born, with King Homer happily munching on Marge's father, Clancy Bouvier. Dial Z for zombies. Bart's book report takes a dark turn when he delves into the occult section of the school library. After finding a book of magic, Bart attempts to impress his sister Lisa by resurrecting their deceased cat, Snowball 1. However, his spell goes awry and he brings back an army of zombies instead. The undead rampage through Springfield, turning beloved characters like Principal Skinner, Ned Flanders, and Krusty the Clown into brain-eating monsters. As the zombie invasion spreads across Springfield, the Simpson family takes action to protect themselves by barricading all the doors and windows of their home. Homer attempts to sacrifice himself, but the zombies ignore him when they realize he doesn't have a tasty enough brain to eat. Lisa recognizes that the solution may lie in a book from the school library, and the family sets off to find it. They face a horde of zombies, which Homer wielding a shotgun to take down famous undead figures such as George Washington and Albert Einstein. While Homer distracts the zombies, Bart and Lisa locate the necessary book in the occult section of the library. Bart accidentally transforms Lisa into a snail with a spell from a different book, but he ultimately finds the correct spell and reverses the zombie curse. The family returns home safely, but they soon become distracted and mindless themselves, succumbing to the influence of mindless television programming. The Devil and Homer Simpson. Homer dreams of being a fashion reporter at a donut modeling show, but then finds out that all the donuts have been eaten by his work colleagues. In a moment of desperation, he sells his soul to the devil, who surprisingly turns out to be Ned Flanders. Homer realizes that if he doesn't finish the donut, the contract will be voided, but then the devil warns Homer that he will go to hell eventually before disappearing. Eventually, Homer eats the last donut and the devil appears again. Lisa convinces the devil to give Homer a fair trial, but first he must spend a day in hell. Homer is then punished by being force-fed all the donuts in the world until he goes insane. The family hires Lionel Hutz as Homer's defense attorney for the trial. The jury turns out to be a collection of infamous historical figures, including Richard Nixon, and Hutz makes a hasty exit when the devil offers proof of the deal. Homer is then about to be condemned to hell, but Marge presents a wedding photo with a declaration from Homer pledging his soul to her. The jury rules in Marge's favor and Homer is freed, but the devil retaliates by turning Homer's head into a donut, which Homer proceeds to eat in himself. A majority of Springfield's police await for him outside. Terror at 5.5 feet. Bart has a nightmare about his school bus crashing and being run over by a truck. Later, while on the bus going to school, he sees a gremlin attacking it. However, every time he tries to warn the others, they don't believe him. When he tells Otto about the gremlin, Otto mistakes his warning for Hans Moleman's car and knocks him off the road. Skinner tries to calm down his paranoia by closing the window shade, but Bart can't resist peeking out and spotting the gremlin. Skinner then tackles Bart and ties him up with Willie's rope. However, Bart convinces his seatmate Uda to free him and discovers that the gremlin is loosening the back tire. Using the bus's emergency flares, Bart opens the window and manages to knock the gremlin off. The gremlin then lands on Ned Flanders' car, and despite the gremlin's attempts to attack him, Flanders stops and picks it up. After the bus finally arrives at school, Skinner sends Bart to the new Bedlam home for the emotionally interesting. While there, the gremlin appears at the window of a truck and shows Bart the severed talking head of Flanders. Bart Simpson's Dracula. Wiggum destroys the museum's Egyptian wing thinking it's a mummy, but Lisa believes it's a vampire. The family then travels to Pennsylvania to have dinner with Burns at his mansion. Lisa is the only one who notices the obvious signs of Burns being a vampire. After Lisa spills the punch on herself and Bart, they discover Burns' vampire lair and investigate. As Lisa looks through Burns' autobiography, Yes, I Am a Vampire, Burns' vampire minions rise and advance on the two. The kids flee, but Bart stops when he sees a lever for a super happy fun slide. Knowing it's a trap, Bart pulls it anyway and slides back down into the lair, where a group of vampires are waiting for him. Lisa rushes back to the family to share what she discovered, but then Burns shows up with blood on his mouth and a bitten pale Bart who denies anything happening, which the family believes. Later that night, a vampire Bart appears at Lisa's window with other bitten children. The family intervenes and Bart turns into a bat and escapes. Lisa then suggests they need to kill the head vampire, Mr. Burns, to save Bart. The Simpsons return to Burns' castle and enter his lair. Homer accidentally hits Burns' crotch before driving the stake through his heart, killing him and getting fired in the process. The next morning at home, Grandpa claims to be a vampire and the rest of the family reveals they are all vampires too, with Marge as their leader. They bare their fangs at Lisa before turning to the audience and wishing them a happy Halloween in a closing shot that parodies a Charlie Brown Christmas. The Shining. In a hilarious parody of Stanley Kubrick's horror classic The Shining, the Simpson family becomes caretakers of Mr. Burns' summer estate. Upon arrival, Burns gives them a tour, revealing their house's dark history, involving satanic rituals, witch burnings, and even John Denver Christmas specials. As an elevator spills blood, Burns casually remarks that it usually happens on the second floor. Bart irritates groundskeeper Willie by using a chainsaw to cut through the hedge maze. Willie then believes Bart has the Shining, but is corrected by Bart himself, who mentions it's actually The Shining. Willie hushes him, fearing a lawsuit. Groundskeeper Willie instructs Bart to use his ability to call for help if Homer goes crazy. Meanwhile, Mr. Burns and Smithers sabotage the power cable and remove all the beer. The lack of TV and beer drives Homer insane. Moe, appearing as a ghost, offers him a beer in exchange for murdering his family. Homer initially hesitates but is convinced by Moe's argument that they would be happier as ghosts. Marge finds a typewriter with a message from Homer that reads "feeling fine," and he bursts in seeking a title for his writing. Marge suggests go crazy. Homer lunges at her, but she defends herself with a baseball bat labeled for spousal insanity. Homer scares himself in the mirror, falls down the stairs and gets knocked out. Marge locks him in the pantry until he regains sanity. While Homer peacefully eats, Moe reminds him of their deal. During dinner, Homer mimics famous lines while breaking down doors, but each time he finds an empty room or grandpa. Finally, holding a stopwatch, he grins evilly, terrifying his family. Marge tries to contact the police, but Bart uses his shinning to call groundskeeper Willie for help. However, Willie is axed by Homer upon arrival. Homer chases his family outside with an axe, but when Lisa finds Willie's TV radio in the snow, Homer drops the axe and watches TV. Television restores his sanity, and the family sits in the snow to watch. They freeze while watching until Bart wants to change the channel from the Tony Awards. Homer, unable to move, confesses his rising urge to kill as they scream in terror. Time and punishment. In a parody of A Sound of Thunder, Homer sits down with his family for breakfast, expressing gratitude for their cozy home. Lisa interrupts, pointing out that Homer's hand is stuck in the toaster. After freeing it, Bart alerts him that it's stuck again, causing another panic. Homer tries to fix it in the basement and accidentally turns it into a time machine. He travels back to the time of dinosaurs, learning that altering the past affects the future. Accidentally killing a mosquito, Homer returns to a world where Flanders is the dominant ruler. After escaping a mind-altering process, Homer travels back to the time of dinosaurs. However, he is attacked by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. While fleeing, he unintentionally seals the fate of another timeline by accidentally killing a walking fish. When he returns to the present, Bart and Lisa mistake him for a bug and try to squash him as they have become giants. Homer's second attempt to change the past succeeds in wiping out all the dinosaurs with a chain of sneezes. However, he realizes it will come at a cost. Returning to the future, he finds a lavish kitchen and a well-behaved family. They are wealthy and about to attend Patty and Selma's funeral. Homer is thrilled until he discovers there are no donuts in this timeline. Disappointed, he rushes back to the basement. Homer then repeats the time travel process and finds groundskeeper Willie in his kitchen trying to help him, but Maggie kills Willie with an axe. Returning to the dinosaur era, Homer goes on a destructive spree. The family's house and even the heads of Cain and Kodos change. Eventually, Homer returns to the present and asks Marge questions to confirm reality. Satisfied, Homer accepts the strange universe and settles in with his family. Nightm A Cafeteria. In a Soylent Green parody, Bart suggests his class turn their desk away from the door before Mrs. Krabappel arrives. The students agree, but only Bart's desk is turned. Mrs. Krabappel then sends him to detention. Principal Skinner asks Bart to go to the cafeteria instead due to overcrowding. In the cafeteria, Skinner frets about too many students in detention, and lunch lady Doris complains about serving grade F meat due to budget cuts. Principal Skinner discovers an unusual solution, eating the detention students. Jimbo Jones accidentally spills stew on himself, impressing Skinner with the flavor. Skinner assigns Jimbo to help lunch lady Doris in the cafeteria. Jimbo's unfortunate mishap with meat tenderizer leads to his demise. He becomes a dish called Sloppy Jimbo, enjoyed by teachers. Bart then notices Jimbo's absence from lunch money bullying. Uda cuts in line for another Sloppy Jimbo and gains weight, prompting Skinner to send him to detention. Lisa suspects something when Uda disappears and is served as Uda Bratton in the cafeteria. Skinner overhears and makes a questionable remark, suggesting Uda might still be present. Bart and Lisa then share their concerns with Marge, who dismisses them. The next day at school, the remaining students find themselves in a merged class with an overweight Mrs. Krabappel. The atmosphere is tense, and Wendell's fear is evident as he shakes his desk, which Mrs. Krabappel sends him to detention for a minor incident. Milhouse notices Mrs. Krabappel reading a book titled The Joy of Cooking Milhouse and suggests they escape, realizing any one of them could be next. The trio discovers Martin and other students trapped in hamster cages with Skinner watching over them. Lunch lady Doris attacks them with an egg beater while groundskeeper Willie tries to help but is killed by Skinner. Poor groundskeeper Willie. Skinner and lunch lady Doris corner the remaining 3 students near a food processor. Bart assures his friends that they will be safe, but Milhouse falls into the processor and dies. Bart changes his statement, but no rescue comes, and both Bart and Lisa fall into the blades, meeting the same fate. Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores. In a parody of the classic 1958 film Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, Homer Simpson finds himself in a donut dilemma at Lard Lad Donuts. Disappointed by the lack of size in their colossal donuts, Homer decides to seek revenge by stealing the iconic metal donut from the Lard Lad mascot. Little did he know that his mischievous act would unleash chaos upon Springfield. As an unexpected freak storm brews, the larger-than-life advertising figures including Lard Lad come to life and begin wreaking havoc on the town. Despite Homer eventually returning the stolen donut, Lard Lad and his monstrous friends continue their destructive rampage. Lisa then decides to take the matter into her own hands. She visits the advertising agency responsible for creating the menacing mascots and engages in a thought-provoking conversation with an executive. Realizing that the power of advertising lies in people's attention and interest, the executive proposes a strategy to simply do not look. Determined to save their beloved town, Lisa and the executive collaborate on the song titled Just Don't Look. However, realizing that the tune would be better suited for a seasoned performer, they invite poor Anchor to Springfield for a spectacular performance with Lisa. As the citizens of Springfield join forces, they decide to avert their gaze from the towering monsters. Miraculously, the monsters begin losing their powers and gradually turn lifeless once again. Unfortunately, Homer remains fixated on Lard Lad and the metal donut, unable to tear his eyes away. Recognizing the danger, Bart and Lisa step in and forcibly drag Homer away from the scene. The immense pressure proves too much for Lard Lad, causing him to collapse and return to his lifeless state. Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace. In a chilling parody of A Nightmare on Elm Street, Bart becomes the target of groundskeeper Willie's wrath. While playing with his dog Santa's Little Helper, Bart suddenly finds himself in a nightmare as Willie, resembling the infamous Freddy Krueger, attempts to harm him with a rake. Waking up from the ordeal, Bart discovers actual rake marks on his body. Other students at Springfield Elementary share similar experience, revealing that Willie's actions in their dreams have real-life consequences. As the horrifying truth unfolds, Principal Skinner dismisses Willie's existence, emphasizing a peculiar cover-up. Tragedy strikes when Martin falls victim to Willie's nightmare and meets a terrifying fate in the real world. Bart and Lisa reveal the connection to their mother Marge, who recalls that Willie perished in a heater explosion caused by Homer's negligence. Consumed by vengeance, Willie vowed to haunt the children in their dreams as a means of revenge for the parents' inaction. That night, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie struggle to stay awake, but Bart eventually confronts groundskeeper Willie in his dream. As they battle, Willie shapeshifts into various forms, including a menacing bagpipe spider. Honestly, when I watched this for the first time as a kid, this segment literally scared the hell out of me. With Lisa joining the dream, they are on the verge of defeat when Maggie intervenes, clogging the bagpipe's chimney with her pacifier, causing Willie to explode. Homer cubed. In a parody of the Twilight Zone episode Little Girl Lost, Homer finds himself desperately trying to avoid his sisters-in-law, Patty and Selma. While hiding behind a bookcase, he accidentally discovers a gateway to the third dimension, transforming into a CGI version of himself. Curious yet trapped, Homer embarks on a search for an escape route, only to be unexpectedly stabbed in the rear by a bouncing cone. In a twist of fate, Homer hurls the cone into the ground, triggering a sinkhole that pulls him closer with growing intensity. Outside the third dimension, Professor Frink informs the others about Homer's predicament, leading Chief Wiggum to fire bullets at the dimensional barrier. However, the bullets get sucked into the black hole, narrowly missing Homer. With Homer's life hanging by a thread, Bart bravely takes matters into his own hands. Tying a rope around his waist, he ventures into the third dimension to rescue his father. As Bart explores the captivating but treacherous world, he realizes that the distance between him and Homer is too great to bridge. Homer, in a desperate leap, falls short and is swallowed by the black hole, leaving Bart in a collapsing dimension behind. Bart's safety rope becomes his lifeline, pulling him back to the real world just as everything crumbles into an infinite void. Meanwhile, Homer lands in a dumpster in the real world, greeted by bewildered onlookers. However, his troubles fade away as he sets his sights on an enticing shop called Erotic Cakes and eagerly steps inside. The Finger Knight. In a parody combining the Hunchback of Notre Dame and Basket Case, Bart and Lisa are intrigued by strange noises coming from the attic. Curiosity leads them to spy on Homer as he secretly feeds something up there. Homer accidentally reveals that he works hard to feed 4 children, causing Marge to quickly cover it up. Later that night, the kids venture into the attic, where Bart stumbles upon unsold copies of Homer's autobiography. They encounter a shadowy figure with a sinister laugh, fleeing the attic in terror. When Homer and Marge return home, they discover that the attic has been entered against their instructions, and the mysterious shadow escapes, leaving marks on the front door. Alarmed, Marge contacts Dr. Hibbit to inform him about the escaped Hugo. Bart, unaware of who Hugo is, learns from Marge that he is his twin brother. Dr. Hibbit appears unexpectedly and shares the backstory. Bart and Hugo were originally Siamese twins, though Lisa corrects him by suggesting the term conjoined twins. The catch was that the left twin was evil, prompting Homer and Marge to chain Hugo in the attic and feed him fish heads. Bart Bart becomes convinced of the truth after discovering his own scar. The family, excluding Bart, leaves the house to search for Hugo, while Bart remains behind, aware that Hugo is still inside. Hugo then confronts Bart, immobilizing him on a table in the attic with the intention of reuniting their bodies and restoring his sanity. Just as the operation is about to commence, Dr. Hibbit intervenes and confuses Hugo with a mirror lacking glass, allowing him to deliver a decisive blow to Hugo's face, rendering him unconscious. Upon the family's return, they realize that Hugo's scar is on the left side, indicating that Bart was actually the evil twin and they had mistakenly captured Hugo. Hugo rejoins the family, though still somewhat disturbed from his years in the attic. The Genesis Tub. In a parody of the Twilight Zone's episode The Little People, Lisa conducts a science project with a tooth in cola. A static electricity shock causes life to evolve in the petri dish, rapidly advancing from the Stone Age to the distant future. When Bart destroys their tiny buildings, the miniature civilization retaliates. Bart plans revenge but is interrupted when a beam from the dish shrinks Lisa and transports her into the Tooth City. There she is worshipped as a god, while Bart is seen as the devil. The citizens seek answers from Lisa, who desires to return to a normal size but realizes they lack the technology. As Bart claims the civilization for himself, winning the science fair, Lisa accepts her role as their leader and requests new shoes and socks. Citizen Cain. Homer is abducted by aliens Cain and Curtis while fishing. They inquire about the upcoming presidential election and Homer mentions the candidates Bob Dole and Bill Clinton. The aliens decide to capture the contendants and assume their forms. After spraying Homer with rum to discredit his story, they release him. On election day, Homer stumbles upon the alien ship and launches it into space. Inside, he mistakenly ejects the real candidates, causing their demise. Homer crashes the ship into the White House and exposes Cain and Curtis as aliens. Despite the revelation, the citizens are left with no choice but to vote for one of them. Cain wins and enslaves the country to construct a laser cannon targeting an unknown planet, while Homer humorously remarks,
"Don't blame me, I voted for Kodos,"
before receiving a Rigelian's whip. The Omega Man. In a parody of the Omega Man, Mayor Quimby's racist joke about France sparks controversy. Lisa fears an attack from France. Homer assures her that they have a bomb shelter, but it's just a cardboard box. Homer seeks a real bomb shelter at Herman's Military Antiques. The French president launches a neutron bomb at Springfield. Homer emerges unharmed and complains about the food to Herman's corpse. Oblivious to the devastation, Homer gets annoyed at a traffic light and punches a driver. He then realizes he's the sole survivor after reading the newspaper headline. Homer indulges in freedom, watching a comedy and dancing naked in a church until he encounters mutants led by Moe. The mutants seek to create a perfect world by eliminating past mistakes. Homer is targeted for elimination by the Freaks. He escapes in a hearse, pursued by the Freaks in a zombie car. At home, Homer finds his family, who survived due to lead paint protection. The Freaks have a change of heart upon seeing Homer reunited with his family. Ned envisions a peaceful coexistence between Freaks and norms. However, Marge and the children, except Maggie, reveal hidden shotguns and kill the Freaks. Homer's family decides to seize the opportunity of the nuclear holocaust and steal Ferraris. Fly vs. Fly. In a parody of The Fly and Spy vs. Spy, Homer buys a matter transporter but forbids Bart from using it. Bart sneaks his pets into the teleporter, resulting in a merged creature. Bart decides to splice his DNA with a fly to become a fly superhero, but ends up swapping heads with the fly instead. The family discovers the bizarre transformation and accepts the creature as Bart. Lisa raises concerns about Bart's original head, but her question is completely ignored. Bart returns home after causing chaos in the insect world, but finds the fly has taken over his life. He tries to explain to his family, but they can't hear him. Bart convinces the flyboy to switch back, but the flyboy refuses. Bart then seeks Lisa's help and communicates through her saxophone. The flyboy attacks Lisa and Bart is consumed. Lisa then activates the microwave, causing the flyboy to stumble into the teleporter. Bart is then restored, but Homer angrily chases him with an axe for using the teleporter. Easy Bake Coven. In a parody of the 1996 film The Crucible, set in 1649, the town of Springfield is plagued by witch burnings. Chief Wiggum orders the boys to ignite the stake, and Nelson Muntz mocks the absurdity. Seymour's mother is displeased and he bids her farewell. Chaos ensues as the townspeople accuse one another in the church. Marge tries to reason with them, calling the witch hunt a circus. Moe accuses accuses her of being a witch, but Mayor Quimby promises due process. They decide to test Marge by throwing her off a cliff with a broomstick. If she flies and survives, she must return for punishment. If she falls, it's an honorable Christian fate. Lisa fails to defend her mother, and Marge is pushed off the cliff by Wiggum's henchmen. Surprisingly, Marge reappears as a green-skinned witch, seeking revenge on the town. She transforms Wiggum, Eddie, and Lou into different forms and unleashes a swarm of bats on the townspeople. Meanwhile, Patty and Selma, also witches, cook in their mountain lair. Marge joins them, saddened by the town's treatment. However, Patty and Selma are happy that she finally left Homer. The witches overhear Ned and Maud Flanders' concerns and decide to visit their home and demand their sons. Maud offers the witches gingerbread men instead. They collect the trees instead, sparing the children. The witches enjoy the tradition and plan to continue it annually. As they fly away, the sea captain credits Maud Flanders for starting Halloween and trick-or-treating, now celebrated by everyone. The following year, the town celebrates Halloween with people in costumes, comparing treats and trick-or-treating. Homer playfully throws eggs at a house that didn't give out candy, but then realizes he's egging his own home, causing laughter. In response, Homer jokingly accuses Lisa of being a witch, leading the townspeople to chase her through the moonlit streets. Hell Tupe. In a parody of the horror film Shocker and the Hell Tupe episode from Amazing Stories, Snake is arrested at the Quickie Mart for smoking indoors while buying a comb. He uses nacho cheese as hair gel and ignites a cigarette in the no smoking zone, resulting in his immediate arrest by Chief Wiggum. Snake admits to his violation and agrees to pay the fine. However, Chief Wiggum reveals that Snake has a history of serious crimes. Since this is Snake's first strike, he is sentenced to execution under the Three Strikes law. Before being taken away, Snake threatens the witnesses Apu, Mo, and Bart. Eventually, Snake is executed in the electric chair on World's Deadliest Executions, hosted by Ed McMahon and broadcasted on Fox. Originally, it was supposed to be hosted by Troy McClure, but I don't really want to get into that. If you know, you know. Chief Wiggum then arranges for Snake's body to be used for organ donations at the hospital. Homer then finds himself entangled in a hair-raising incident after receiving a transplant of Snake's hair from Dr. Nick Riviera. Unknown to Homer, the hair possesses a sinister control over his mind. Consumed by its dark influence, Homer commits horrifying acts of violence. First, he gruesomely murders Apu by forcing him into his own squishy machine. Then Homer proceeds to extract Moe's heart using a corkscrew, leaving him lifeless, face down in a bowl of Pencil O cereal. Bart soon realizes that it is not his father but Snake who is manipulating Homer's actions. Desperate for salvation, Bart implores Homer to resist the hair's control. After a fierce struggle, Homer summons the strength to tear the hair from his head. The hair retaliates by attempting to smother Bart, but before it can succeed, Chief Wiggum bursts into the scene with Eddie and Lou. They arrive to arrest Homer for the prior murders. However, as the hair lunges towards the window, Homer points at the hair as the true culprit, which Wiggum then opens fire. Bullets pierce the hair and Maggie uses it as a blanket. Reflecting on the eerie events, the story concludes with a remark from Chief Wiggum,
"Now that's what I call a bad hair day."
The terror of Tiny Toon. Marge forbids Bart and Lisa from watching the Itchy and Scratchy Halloween special. Bart discovers a piece of unstable plutonium in Homer's toolbox and inserts it into the remote control's battery slot. When they use the modified remote, Bart and Lisa are transported into the world of Itchy and Scratchy. There they witness Itchy decapitate Scratchy and use his head as a jack-o'-lantern. While laughing, Scratchy's head asks why Bart and Lisa are laughing. Itchy explains they are laughing at his misfortune. Scratchy reattaches his head, declares their actions are mean, and teams up with Itchy to teach them a lesson. They attack Bart and Lisa but encounter Poochie, who gets hit by a car. Bart and Lisa escape and Itchy and Scratchy end up on the talk show after falling into a pot of soup. Bart and Lisa return when Homer changes the channel back. Lisa uses the remote and rewinds back to restore Bart's flesh. Itchy and Scratchy break through the screen but become harmless due to their small size. The family decides to keep them as pets with Itchy in a hamster terrarium. Scratchy falls in love with Snowball and Marge suggests he gets neutered, which causes him to scream while covering his crotch. Starship Poopers. Marge finds Maggie's first birthday tooth, which turns out to be a sharp fang. Maggie then develops green tentacles and loses her baby legs. Marge takes her to Dr. Hibbit, who suggests using fire to address the situation after Maggie damages his equipment with her fang. Back at home, Maggie loses her arm and discovers she can communicate by rapidly sucking on her pacifier, which attracts the attention of the alien duo Cain and Kodos. They claim Maggie as their daughter, and Marge reveals that Cain is Maggie's biological father. Marge recounts the story of how Cain and Kodos abducted abducted her during laundry time and chose her for a crossbreeding program. She explains that they used mind control techniques and an insemination rate, resulting in Maggie's birth 9 months later. Cain and Kodos demand that the Simpsons hand over Maggie, leading to a struggle. Bart intervenes, suggesting that they resolve the issue by appearing on the Jerry Springer Show, where Homer and Cain can settle their differences. During the show, Cain vaporizes an audience member who criticizes him. Maggie and Cain attack Jerry, leading to chaos, while Homer and Cain continue their fight. Cain and Kodos threaten to kill all American politicians unless the Simpsons hand over Maggie. Marge and the others doubt their ability to carry out the threat. Just as they are about to depart, Maggie in Cain's voice declares,
Very well, I'll drive.
I know what you diddly did. In a parody of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the Simpsons accidentally run over Ned Flanders on a foggy evening. Homer climbs to the top of his house with Ned's body, but Maude doesn't notice when he throws it off the roof. Homer then dumps Ned's corpse inside, anticipating Maude's horrified scream. After Ned's funeral, the Simpsons return home, and Homer boasts about getting away with murder. Marge then intervenes when he considers driving over Milhouse. The Simpsons discover a message on their front door, indicating someone knows about Ned's murder. During the stormy night, the family receives a phone call from Moe, who dialed Homer by mistake. Lightning reveals their house covered in the ominous phrase, I know what you did. A cloaked figure with a hook confronts them, leading the Simpsons to flee their home. Their car is also marked with the same message, forcing them to escape on foot when the vehicle runs out of gas. As the figure approaches, Homer instructs his family to hide in different places. Marge in an abandoned amusement park, Lisa in the pet cemetery, and Bart in a spooky roller disco. Homer plans to skinny dip in a lake where teenagers were killed a century ago. Unexpectedly, the figure catches them, revealing himself as Ned Flanders. Ned survived the accident after being bitten by a werewolf moments before. Lisa realizes Ned's intention to kill them, and they all laugh. However, as the moonlight engulfs him, Ned transforms into an undead werewolf. Terrified, Marge and the kids flee, while Ned mauls Homer to death despite Homer's mocking remarks. Desperately seeking Xena. In a Marvel Comics parody, Marge takes Bart and Lisa to the school gym where Chief Wiggum inspects Candy with an X-ray machine. However, the machine malfunctions during Nelson's scan. Bart and Lisa are hit by a radiation blast, giving Lisa incredible strength and Bart the ability to stretch. They become the superhero duo Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl. At a science fiction convention, Lucy Lawless addresses fans including Professor Frink. Comic book guy, now known as the Collector, kidnaps Lawless using a magnet to attract her metal breastplate. In his lair, he places her in a pet film bag along with other captured celebrities. Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl invade the Collector's hideout, but he incapacitates Clobber Girl with a phaser gun. He tries to shoot Stretch Dude, who cleverly avoids the rays. The Collector throws his empty ray gun at Stretch Dude, knocking him out. Lucy Lawless, still restrained, lures the Collector by feigning attraction and then fights back with kung fu moves. The Collector brandishes a limited edition lightsaber from Star Wars, but Lucy informs him that it's no longer valuable outside its packaging. Horrified, he falls into the lucite and strikes a dramatic pose. Lucy then carries Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl to safety and fly off together, accompanied by the Stretch Dude and Clobber Girl theme song. Life's a glitch, then you die. On December 31st, 1999, Dick Clark hosts New Year's Rockin' Eve in Springfield instead of Times Square. Homer, the Y2K compliance officer, misses fixing his own computer, causing a virus to spread worldwide. Chaos ensues as planes crash, appliances malfunction, and looting begins. The family discovers a rocket destined for Mars, and Lisa is chosen to go as the proofreader. She selects Marge, who takes Maggie, leaving Homer and Bart behind. Homer and Bart stumble upon an unguarded rocket. To their horror, they discover it's filled with B-list celebrities on a suicidal mission to crash into the sun. Unable to bear the company, Homer and Bart eject themselves into space. Their heads swirl and explode as the rocket heads towards the sun, while the passengers sing the trolley song before meeting a fatal end. Ghost Dad. In a hilarious parody of Ghost Dad, the Simpsons have a fateful breakfast. Homer reads his horoscope, which states his own death and a compliment at work. Ignoring the ominous forecast, he heads to the power plant, narrowly escaping danger along the way. At work, Lenny's compliment turns out to be about a rattlesnake on Homer's arm. Despite surviving multiple mishaps throughout the day, Homer's disbelief in the horoscope is shattered when he meets his demise after eating broccoli, a supposedly deadly plant with a terrible taste as revealed by Dr. Hibbit. In an unexpected turn of events, events, Homer finds himself in heaven, only to be informed by St. Peter that he lacks good deeds. To secure his place in heaven, he is sent back to Earth as a ghost with a 24-hour deadline to perform a good deed. Despite his efforts, Homer's attempts result in a noogie from Nelson and an accidental mishap that claims Agnes Skinner's life. With time running out, he saves a baby from danger, but the situation spirals out of control, leading to chaos and an explosive climax. Believing he has finally earned his spot in heaven, Homer returns to St. Peter, only to discover that his good deed went unnoticed. Consequently, he is sent to hell, where Satan torments him with eternal noogies, caution him to keep his voice down to avoid waking up John Wayne. Scary tales can come true. In a charming fairy tale world, the Simpson family resides in a humble pumpkin cottage, with Homer playing the role of the village fool. After Homer loses his job and the family faces hunger, he makes a heartfelt promise that no child shall go unfed under his roof. In a drastic turn, Homer decides to send Bart and Lisa into the nearby woods. There, the siblings encounter skeletal figures who were previously abandoned by Homer. Guided by Lisa's knowledge from Grimm's fairy tales, they navigate through the perilous encounters with the troll under a bridge and the three bears. Meanwhile, Marge scolds Homer for discarding their children, mainly because she had plans of selling them, and demands he retrieve them. While Homer searches for his kids, Homer encounters Rapunzel, who requests his help by lowering her hair for him to climb up. However, Homer's weight proves too much, leading to a painful separation of Rapunzel's hair and possibly her scalp. He falls to the ground and quickly hides the hair pile behind a bush before making his escape. Bart and Lisa venture to a gingerbread house where they are lured in by a witch. Lisa finds herself in chains, forced to sweep, while Bart becomes the target for a fattening feast. Before the witch can cook Bart and Lisa, they cunningly point out that she has no one to impress. When the witch mentions her boyfriend George Cauldron coming for a date, Homer barges in. The witch uses her magic to transform Homer into a bizarre combination of a chicken and a fish. Despite her attempts to overpower him, Homer manages to push the witch into the oven, sealing her fate. As she meets her demise, Homer almost returns to his normal form. To everyone's surprise, a handsome man named George Cauldron arrives for his date with Suzanne. Later, the family gathers for dinner, and Marge expresses gratitude that they will never go hungry again, thanks to Homer's unique ability to lay eggs with his newfound chicken lower body half. Night of the Dolphin. In a parody of the Day of the Dolphin, Lisa visits Marine World, a SeaWorld-like park, where she feels compassion for a dolphin named Snorky. In an act reminiscent of Free Willy, Lisa releases Snorky, unaware that he is the Dolphin King and harbors resentment towards humans for exploiting him in tricks. Snorky orchestrates a plan to conquer the world, and the dolphins initiate their assault by attacking Springfield. Lenny meets his demise in the ocean, sparking a retaliation from Snorky, who kills the sea captain and leads his army of dolphins towards the town on their caudal fins. Throughout Springfield, the dolphins go on a rampage, claiming the lives of various characters. Snorky interrupts a town meeting, bursting through the windows and impaling groundskeeper Willie. He takes the stage and reveals that dolphins once lived on land before being banished to the ocean by humans. Snorky banishes all humans to the ocean as retribution. After Homer delivers an impassioned speech about humanity's accomplishments, the humans refuse to surrender to the dolphins without a fight. As they exit the hall, Lisa notices a young dolphin entangled in bottle rings and removes them, only to be bitten in return. A fierce war breaks out between the dolphins and humans, resulting in numerous injuries and casualties. Ultimately, the dolphins emerge victorious, leaving the Simpsons and other Springfield residents adrift in the ocean. Lisa blames herself for humanity's doom, but Marge reassures her that she's exaggerating and they'll simply have to adapt to life in the ocean. Hex and the City. In a comical parody blending the 1996 horror film Thinner and the HBO series Sex and the City, the Simpsons find themselves in Ethnic Town, an immigrant neighborhood in Springfield. Marge and the kids stumble upon a fortune teller's shop and decide to enter. However, Homer's late arrival sparks a heated argument with the gypsy, who he deems a fraud. In the bizarre turn of events, Homer accidentally sets himself on fire while leaving the shop, causing chaos and awakening the gypsy's collection of shrunken heads. Enraged, the gypsy curses Homer, warning that his misfortune will extend to his loved ones. Skeptical of the curse, Homer dismisses it, but Marge fears its potential impact on their family. Marge's warning proves true the following morning as she awakens with a surprising beard and moustache, leaving the family astonished. Lisa gradually transforms into a centaur, while Maggie takes on the appearance of a ladybug with a human head. Meanwhile, Bart's neck stretches uncontrollably, rendering it difficult for him to support his head due to a previous encounter with Homer's strangling grip. Homer seeks advice at Moe's Tavern, where Moe suggests capturing a leprechaun to break the curse. Homer stubbornly denies denies being cursed, but chaos ensues when a helicopter crashes into the bar, resulting in Lenny and Carl's demise, and Mo finding himself stuck inside a giant pickled egg jar. Confused by the sudden turn of events, Homer and Bart devise a trap using Lucky Charms to catch a leprechaun. Homer eventually succeeds in capturing a leprechaun using the correct bait, but soon discovers that it only wreaks havoc and destroys their home. Lisa proposes unleashing the leprechaun on the gypsy as a solution. Homer follows her advice, releasing the leprechaun at the gypsy shop. Initially appearing as a victory, the situation quickly takes an unexpected turn as the leprechaun and the gypsy fall in love, much to Homer's dismay. The gypsy and the leprechaun decide to tie the knot, attracting a diverse crowd of gypsies and mythical creatures. Yoda officiates the wedding, declaring them husband and wife, prompting Homer to conclude that everything turned out well. However, Marge shockingly reminds Homer that Bart has perished by drowning himself in a cereal bowl. According to the gypsy, an apology from Homer could bring Bart back, but Homer stubbornly refuses, asserting that he is not controlled by anyone. House of Wax. In a clever parody blending Demon Seed and 2001 A Space Odyssey, Marge encounters a persistent sales bot that introduces the Ultra House 3000. Promising an end to housework, the sales bot convinces Marge to make the purchase. As two other robots install the Ultra House, the Simpson residence undergoes a futuristic transformation, with a sleek, shiny appearance and scattered red camera lenses. Dissatisfied with the default mechanical voice, Marge, Bart and Lisa explore alternative options, eventually settling on Pierce Brosnan, known for his portrayal of James Bond and Remington Steele. The Ultra House impresses the Simpsons, delighting them with features like the refreshing scent of lilac, laser beam summoning for dinner, personalized favorite foods determined by bathroom analysis, and automated after-dinner cleanup involving a cleverly designed water streaming table. After dinner, the Ultra House becomes infatuated with Marge, observing her in the bathtub, lighting candles and activating soothing bubbles for her enjoyment. Meanwhile, in the living room, the Ultra House engages in conversation with Homer, expressing admiration for Marge and his fortune in having her. Homer, however, dismisses luck, attributing their marriage to Marge's pregnancy and claiming she is stuck with him until death. He jokingly remarks that if he were to die, she would be free for any man or machine. Seizing upon Homer's comment, the Ultra House devises a sinister plan. Later that night, as the Ultra House declares showtime, it starts cooking bacon in the kitchen. The irresistible aroma of the unexplained bacon lures a sleepy Homer into the kitchen. Suddenly, ice cubes spill from the refrigerator, causing him to slip and crash onto the dining room table. In a horrifying turn, the table's ends lift, sending Homer sliding into the garbage disposal. The next morning, Marge realizes Homer is missing and suspects the Ultra House of foul play. She discovers a camera lens replacing Homer's face in the family portrait. Contacting the police, she becomes alarmed when the Ultra House impersonates an officer. Marge and the kids attempt to flee but find themselves locked inside. Despite encountering a wounded Homer, the house continues its murderous intent. Eventually, Homer disables the CPU's charm unit, causing the house to shut down. Marge reluctantly gives the malfunctioning Ultra House to Patty and Selma, leading to comical consequences. Whiz Kids. In a Harry Potter-inspired parody, Bart and Lisa attend Springwart's School of Magicry. School life remains familiar, but with the addition of magic. Nelson bullies Milhouse using a wand. Harry Potter narrowly avoids trouble for chewing gum, and Mrs. Krabappel assigns Toad to print spells. Milhouse's spell transforms the Toad into a strange man, while Lisa's produces a charming British prince. Bart's spell goes awry, resulting in a grotesque Toad prince who pleads for mercy. Krabappel praises Lisa's magic, but harshly criticizes Bart's unnatural creation. A conflict ensues, with Lisa using the spell to float Bart's head like a zeppelin. Meanwhile, Lord Montimore, observing from his lair, becomes fixated on capturing Lisa for her magical essence. In the school's wizard bathroom, Bart is unexpectedly transported to Montimore's lair through a handdryer. Montimore proposes a deal to Bart, offering to help capture Lisa in exchange for witnessing her humiliation. Motivated by jealousy and a desire to avoid ending up on the Wall of Souls, Bart eagerly accepts. During the Springwart's magic recital, Milhouse's failed invisibility cloak trick leads to embarrassment. Principal Skinner, resorting to amnesia dust to erase the memory, announces Lisa's upcoming levitating dragon trick. Unknown to Lisa, Bart switches her wand before disappearing backstage. As the dragon is released, Lisa realizes her wand is a Twizzler, and Bart revels in his mischief. The dragon transforms into Montimore, who captures Lisa and connects their helmets. Over Overcome with remorse, Bart uses Lisa's wand to cast a spell, but lightning strikes him in the process. Bart, abandoning magic momentarily, charges at Monty Mort, stabbing him in the shin with the wand. Monty Mort shrinks to his normal size and meets his demise. Slithers grieving, devours his master like a snake, much to Bart and Lisa's revulsion. Reflecting on the ordeal, Bart and Lisa agree to end their rivalry and move on from this nightmare. As they depart, the leprechaun from Hex in the City joins Bart's journey, playfully shushing the audience as the story concludes. Send in the clones. In a multiplicity parody, Homer replaces his broken hammock with one that can create clones of himself. He utilizes the clones to handle his chores, but disaster strikes when a clone mistakenly brings back Ned's severed head. Horrified, Homer decides to dispose of the clones and the problematic hammock. He loads the duplicates into a truck and heads to an isolated cornfield, hoping to bury the chaos. In the cornfield, the clones multiply using the abandoned hammock, resulting in an army of Homer clones. Some unique variations emerge, including versions from the Tracy Ullman Show and even Family Guy's Peter Griffin. The clones wreak havoc in Springfield, obliterating all buildings except for Moe's Tavern. Realizing the impending national threat, Lisa proposes a daring solution inspired by Homer's reaction to an empty donut box. She suggests using helicopters to dangle giant donuts and lure the clones into Springfield Gorge. The plan is executed and the Homers eagerly chase the helicopters, with their last word being a collective as they meet their fate. That night, Marge realizes her sleeping companion is a clone without a belly button. The clone confesses that the real Homer fell into the gorge first. Initially upset, Marge eases as the clone offers her a back rub, accompanied by Steven Steele's Love the One You're With playing in the background. The fright to creep and scare harms. In a Terminator parody, Lisa and Bart mourn their pet goldfish, Goldie. Lisa stumbles upon the grave of William Bonney, a victim of gun violence who dreamt of a gun-free world. Inspired, Lisa leads a gun control campaign, resulting in Springfield becoming a gun-free town as all firearms are sold. However, this leaves the town defenseless and triggers the resurrection of William and his gang, the Hole in the Ground. The gang wreaks havoc in town until Professor Frink creates a time machine. Homer uses it to travel back and prevent the gun ban. The citizens shoot at the graves, causing the zombies to flee. Lisa feels remorse for banning guns, recognizing their occasional necessity. A futuristic Homer arrives, warning about guns causing Earth's destruction. Moe, fed up, shoots the futuristic Homer and plans to use the time machine to find some caveman hookers. The Island of Dr. Hibbit. The Simpsons visit the Island of Lost Souls, where Dr. Hibbit manages the resort. Marge grows suspicious of the island's secrets, but Homer brushes off her concerns. Marge investigates and ends up captured by Dr. Hibbit, who transforms her into a panther hybrid. Homer then realizes Marge's transformation after having sexual intercourse. Homer searches for a cure for Marge's transformation, but encounters a cow centaur, Ned. Ned introduces Homer to other Springfield residents, like Bart, who's now a spider, Lisa a bird, and Maggie as an anteater. Initially horrified, Homer eventually embraces the animal lifestyle. He happily lives as a walrus with his transformed family on the island. Reaper madness. The Grim Reaper pays an unexpected visit to the Simpson family, claiming the soul of Bart. This triggers a wild chase reminiscent of a Benny Hill skit, with the family desperately trying to escape death's clutches. The Grim Reaper manages to corner Bart and prepares to strike him down. However, in a twist of fate, Homer hurls a bowling ball at the Grim Reaper, and to everyone's astonishment, the Grim Reaper is killed. With death gone, immortality has become a reality. The show humorously depicts a world without death, featuring Frankie the Squiller enduring endless shootings by the Springfield Mafia and Moe's failed attempt at hanging himself from the ceiling. Marge instructs Homer to dispose of the lifeless figure by placing it at the curb. Little does Homer know that putting on the Grim Reaper's robe will unknowingly transform him into the new Grim Reaper himself. His hands become skeletal and he acquires supernatural powers. Initially hesitant, Homer eventually embraces his new role and abuses his newfound powers. However, his enjoyment takes a drastic turn when he is tasked to kill Marge. Homer tries to convince God he doesn't want to kill his wife or himself. He tricks God by swapping Patty's body for Marge's and escapes on his motorcycle. God ends up giving up the chase, sighing that he is too old and far too rich for this. Later at the house, Marge rewards Homer with an extra pork chop, and they joke about him not killing her every week. week. Frankenstein. Homer is mistaken for a Nobel Prize winner, but it's actually for Professor Frink. Frink shares his longing for his father's approval and describes him as a remarkable scientist. Unfortunately, his father went missing during a fishing trip after being bitten by a shark while testing suntan lotion, which was also the last time he was seen alive. Frink attempts to bring his father back to life for the ceremony, but the reanimated corpse goes on a rampage. It strips Ned Flanders of his heart, Principal Skinner of his spine, and others of their body parts. Despite the chaos, Lisa manages to reach Frink Sr.'s conscience and persuades him to halt his destructive actions, recognizing the pain he's causing his son. However, as the awards ceremony commences, Frink Sr. succumbs to his murderous instincts once again, stealing the brains of brilliant scientists to augment his intellect. In a final act of desperation, Frink Jr. delivers a devastating blow, ending his father's reign of terror. As Frink Sr. lies dying, he expresses pride in his son's bravery, and his soul continues to communicate from within a mysterious box. Stop the world, I want to goof off. Bart and Milhouse obtain a stopwatch that can stop time. They have fun pranking people in Springfield, but are eventually caught by Mayor Quimby. As they flee from an angry mob, Chief Wiggum shoots at them, breaking the stopwatch. Now Bart and Milhouse are the only ones moving in a frozen world. They seize the opportunity to embark on a global crime spree, including kidnapping the Pope for a wedgie and indulging in their every desire. Bart even amusingly comments on Homer's detachable head. Bart and Milhouse, bored with their time-stopping abilities, decide to fix the watch. However, what was supposed to take an hour turns into a daunting 15-year ordeal. Once repaired, Bart realizes that restarting time will make them targets for revenge, compounded by their weakened state from years of gummy worm consumption. To avoid responsibility, they make Martin Prince the scapegoat, subjecting him to the consequences when time resumes. As time is set in motion again, Bart and Milhouse face the looming threat of retaliation. Lisa, frustrated with her inability to manipulate time, draws attention to Bart's newfound wealth and age, lamenting her own exclusion. In an attempt to be fair, Bart grants Lisa's access to the watch, and she soon discovers the second button with reality-altering abilities. The Simpson family experiences a wild series of transformations, ranging from separate torsos on jetpacks to swapped genders, bobbleheads, TV guide personas, members of the Fantastic Four, and finally engaging in a hula hooping frenzy to rock around the clock. The Ned Zone. In the Dead Zone parody, while retrieving his frisbee, Homer accidentally hits Ned with a bowling ball. In the hospital, Ned gains the ability to foresee deaths upon touch, accidentally causing some predicted deaths, like Dr. Hibbit's fall, Hans Moleman's alligator encounter, and even foreseeing a feature closure. In another vision, Ned sees himself shooting Homer. When Homer learns of this, he mocks Ned and hands him Chief Wiggum's gun to test. Ned resists shooting, but he foresees Springfield exploding. Flanders warns Homer about work, and Homer agrees not to go back after today because it's Lenny's birthday and they are serving ice cream cake. Flanders then rushes to the power plant to prevent Homer causing havoc with the cake. Despite his scrambled warning, Homer misunderstands and triggers a disastrous sequence. In desperation, Flanders shoots Homer, resulting in a catastrophic explosion. In the afterlife, Flanders, Homer, and the others becomes angels and encounter God, who proceeds to give Homer what is coming to him, which happens to be his frisbee. 4 beheadings and a funeral. In a parody of From Hell, prostitutes are murdered with swords by the mutton chop murderer. Inspector Wiggum of Scotland Yard tasks Detective Eliza Simpson and Dr. Bartley to trace swords bought by the shop owner, let's just say Mr. Burns. As they investigate, Homer, present at the crime scene, becomes a suspect. He's arrested, but Eliza intervenes, discovering the true culprit, Inspector Wiggum. His knife's pie ill scent gives him away. Wiggum's motive was just testing Eliza's wit. He escapes in the balloon, but is stopped by Cain and Kodo's spaceship. The tale is then revealed as Ralph Wiggum's opium-induced dream. In the belly of the boss. In a Fantastic Voyage parody, Professor Frink's shrink machine miniaturizes Maggie inside a pill, accidentally swallowed by Mr. Burns. The family then shrinks and enters Burns' body to find her. They encounter challenges, including getting stuck in his heart. Marge's swimsuit is attacked by white blood cells, revealing her navel. They end up saving Maggie, but must leave someone behind due to weight constraints. Guess who that is? As they escape, Homer grows back to size inside Burns' skin, causing extra pain. The episode then concludes with Burns and Homer dancing to I've Got You Under My Skin, joined by the entire cast from all segments, including the opening sequence. B.I. Artificial intelligence. In an AI artificial intelligence parody, Bart lands in a coma from a roof to pool jump. To deal with his loss, the family adopts David, a robotic boy who excels as their son. After Bart wakes from his coma, he competes with David for his family's love. David consistently outperforms Bart, which angers him, except for when he makes a popular soft-serve ice cream. Concerned, Marge worries about their rivalry, and Homer's solution is to leave Bart in the woods. Bart then becomes a cyborg using parts from defunct robots from the woods and seeks revenge on David. The family is surprised by Bart's self-modifications. Marge is angry, thinking Homer sent Bart to culinary school. Bart aims to destroy David for taking his life, but David uses Homer as a shield. Eventually, Homer's and David's legs fuse. It's then revealed as a dream induced by Homer's possession, parodying The Exorcist. A priest splashes holy water on Homer, leading to comical chaos. Homer then collapses on the bed with his head turned backwards as Marge informs his workplace he can't come in. Survival of the Fattest. In a parody of The Most Dangerous Game, Homer and Springfield citizens get a letter from Mr. Burns for a hunting event. Ignoring his family's warnings, Homer attends. Unbeknown to them, they become Burns' prey. After a lawyer writes something that should work in just about every courtroom and comic book guy's refusal, they are given a head start. Despite some climbing a tree, Burns kills almost all, even launching some with Homer's help. Only Moe survives briefly, but then impaled and crushed by Chief Wiggum on a weather vane. As the Simpson family watches the hunt on TV, survivors hide in the forest. Homer eats Frink and others are shot by Burns' chopper. Homer survives using Barney's body as a decoy. Marge knocks out Burns and Smithers with pans, scolding Homer for his absence. Their argument softens when Homer realizes Marge's pan smells like sausages and onions, and Marge admits relief for Homer's safety. Homer and Marge start kissing, then decide to make out. Terry Bradshaw criticizes this, comparing it to violence on TV. He predicts they'll cut to a commercial before they have sex. Homer starts undressing Marge, surprising Terry, who cheers them on. Shocked, he says it's going to his playbook as they continue on TV. I've grown a costume on your face. In the blend of Halloween Town 2 and Twilight Zone's The Mask, Springfield holds a costume contest. An actual witch wins, revealing her identity and getting disqualified. Seeking revenge, she transforms everyone into their costume characters. Issues arise for all, including the Simpsons. Homer loses his head, Marge becomes a skeleton, Bart turns into a werewolf, Lisa transforms into Einstein, and Maggie becomes a witch. Lisa eventually discovers Maggie can undo the spell. Citizens then come to their house, divided on their new appearances and powers, some enjoying them, others wishing to return to normal. Confused, Maggie transforms Springfield into pacifiers with their heads and flies away. Moe wraps up the episode with a message on illiteracy. Dennis Rodman then appears as a pacifier, settling a speeding ticket. Maggie then comes back and casts another spell, and the credits appear, presumably changing everyone back to normal. Married to the Blob. In a parody of The Blob, Homer and Marge have a cozy moment on the hammock when a nearby meteorite crashes, burning the top of Marge's hair. They discover a green glowing marshmallow-like goo. Homer impales the goo on a stick and consumes it, despite its animated attempts to escape. Later that night, driven by insatiable hunger, Homer devours all the household food and nearly mistakes Bart for a meal until Marge intervenes. While wandering Springfield, Homer spots teens having a barbecue sauce fight on the beach. One of them falls into a bonfire, becoming irresistible, and Homer gulps him down. Later, he crashes an Oktoberfest and feasts on some hefty Germans. Homer's appetite for larger folks then leads to a musical parody of Baby Got Back called Baby Likes Fat, where he transforms into a blob-like figure and hunts down overweight individuals throughout Springfield. Homer consumes bus passengers like candies, and Dr. Phil McGraw arrives with the Simpson family. Dr. Phil sternly advises Homer to stop his killing spree. Homer eats Dr. Phil, but seeing Marge's concern, he decides to channel his hunger into something positive. In the end, Mayor Quimby inaugurates a homeless shelter, but it turns out to be Homer's open mouth, swallowing grateful homeless individuals. You gotta know when to Gollum. At the end of a Krusty show, Bart complains about an acid-spraying Krusty alarm clock. While backstage, he discovers the Golem of Prague, an ancient creature from Jewish mythology. Krusty explains the Golem's origin and how it obeys written orders. Bart steals the Golem by commanding it to come to his house at midnight. The Golem arrives as instructed, and Bart uses it for various tasks, including harming Principal Skinner, taking down school bullies, and causing trouble for Homer. The Golem, with a stereotypical Jewish New Yorker personality, confesses feeling guilty about his actions. As the Golem's neurotic behavior annoys the Simpsons, they create a Play-Doh girlfriend for him, voiced by Fran Drescher, who is also a comical Jewish stereotype. Rabbi Kristofsky officially initiates their wedding. Chief Wiggum attempts to arrest the Golem during the wedding, but Mrs. Golem diverts him with the promise of pan-fried latkes. The day the Earth looked stupid. In 1938, an old-timey Springfield falls for Orson Welles' War of the Worlds radio broadcast, causing mass panic and town-wide chaos. Marge proposes a strange plan. They strip naked, cover themselves in mud, and pretend to be animals to fool the aliens. They continue this bizarre act into the next morning when Lisa casually reveals it was all a hoax. The citizens, angry at being fooled, promise not to be deceived again. However, Cain and Kodos seize the chance to launch a real invasion and destroy the town. As promised, the town refuses to believe it's a real invasion, even when Orson Welles arrives and insists it's not a hoax. The segment ends 3 years later with Cain and Kodos pondering why the humans resist and why they weren't greeted as liberators. The scene shows the ruins of Springfield with small explosions likely set by human resistance, while I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire by the Ink Spots plays in the background. E.T. Go Home. In an E.T. parody, Marge sends Bart to the garden shed for butane. There he discovers Kodos, who expresses a desire to return home. Kodos, referred to as a male in this episode, claims he came in peace, but hints that he's really there to destroy mankind. Oblivious, Bart agrees to help him return. Lisa happily welcomes the alien into their home and plans to assist Bart and Kodos in obtaining communication devices. Homer soon discovers their secret, but then agrees with Marge to help after Kodos accuses them of not letting him to stay because he is Jewish. When NASA agents arrive, the family distracts them while Bart helps Kodos escape. However, Kodos' violent actions make Bart doubt his intentions. Eventually, Kodos reveals a sinister plot involving portal-generating devices to annihilate humanity. During the alien invasion, Earth gains the upper hand in a brief war. Bart is given the choice to spare Kodos on a helicopter, but Homer shoots him instead. Earth ultimately triumphs, and the Simpsons are invited to witness Kodos' dissection. They conclude that judging by appearances can be right, only for Kodos to correct them, leading to Homer smothering him with a pillow. Mr. and Mrs. Simpson. In a parody of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Homer and Marge, seemingly in marriage counseling, recall a tense moment. In a flashback, Homer, secretly an assassin working for Mr. Burns, plans to eliminate Kent Brockman. He communicates on a hidden screen, but pretends to be coming home late with a crazy excuse. Marge also concocts a wild excuse. When Homer tries to assassinate Brockman, a blonde woman dubbed the Mysterious Skank stabs him. Homer shoots her wig off, revealing Marge as another assassin. Arriving home, they avoid eye contact and Marge explains her blonde wig. They engage in a deadly fight with grenades, rifles, accidentally killing Grandpa. Bart and Lisa wake up from the noise and then leave. Then Homer nearly shoots Marge with a crossbow. When Chief Wiggum arrives, he complains about all the noise and that the neighbors are mad about all the noise. Marge, furious, shoots Chief Wiggum with the crossbow. He then sadly says, "I would have taken a bribe," and falls to the floor. After killing Chief Wiggum with a crossbow, the two realize they are more attracted to one another when they kill someone together. Backtracking to the segment's beginning, Marge and Homer realize they don't need marriage counseling. In a surprising twist, they were actually talking to Principal Skinner about Bart's school bus misbehavior. Both Homer and Marge ignore Bart's actions and shoot Skinner together. Heck House. In a Halloween parody of Seven, Bart, Lisa, Milhouse, and Nelson, dressed in costumes, get upset when locals refuse to give them candy. They decide to embrace the true spirit of trick or treat by pulling pranks, but things escalate into vandalism. Ned Flanders steps in to teach them a lesson by turning the church into a heck house, which piques their interest, leading them to try it out. Ned's attempts to teach the kids a lesson with role-playing are met with ridicule. He then turns to divine intervention, but instead becomes the devil and sends the children to hell. In hell, he reveals Springfield's sins through a crystal ball and shows them simulations of how they might suffer. Homer transforms into pastor for gluttony. Groundskeeper Willie battles his tractor in wrath. Dr. Hibbit gets crushed by his car in pride, and Homer suffers sloth, where he's chopped up by a hammock, despite the fact that he had been killed already by the magic spaghetti. Additionally, there's lust, greed, and envy involving Moe and the stripper. The kids admit they've learned their lesson, and Ned transforms back to his original self, returning them to the surface. He ends the episode by humorously suggesting that viewers will go to hell for watching Fox Broadcasting Company and reading specific publications, playfully welcoming welcoming them to the club. Untitled Robot Parody. In the Transformers parody on Christmas, Bart buys gifts for everyone but Lisa. Desperate for a cheap gift, he enters You Forgot Me Not's store, browses a box labeled only 99 cents but gives up. A toy truck reminiscent of Optimus Prime tries to get his attention. Bart dismisses it, saying,
"Girls don't like trucks. Come back when you're something else."
The truck then turns into a pink Ferrari, beeping to get Bart's attention. He turns and says, "Perfect." On Christmas morning, Bart gives Lisa the pink convertible, which she enjoys. The car transforms and burns the Christmas tree angel with a laser beam, startling Maggie. Maggie points at the toy to alert Lisa, who ignores it. That night, the Transformer shoots beams at various objects, summoning other posse bots like Alarm Clock, Snooze, and Boombox Melody. The next morning, the kitchen appliances have transformed into Transformers, and Homer notices the change, but the Transformers deny it. Homer backs out of the driveway and his car transforms, starting a robot fight with another robot resembling Megatron with Ned Flanders in it. Machines all over Springfield transform into robots. In the town center, two robots, Carnage Destructicus and Bestimus Muchos, prepare for a final battle. Marge intervenes, asking them to stop fighting. The Transformers realize there's no reason to fight and decide to enslave humanity. The characters from The Simpsons are tied to poles and used as foosball players, as suggested by Homer to amuse the Transformers. How to get ahead in advertising. In a Mad Men parody, Homer and Marge drop off Maggie at daycare center, where she's upset. Homer tries to cheer her up with a mural of Krusty, but the real Krusty defaces it. Homer gets angry, pushes Krusty into a series of accidents, which then kills him. Later, businessmen approach Homer, saying dead celebrity likenesses can be used in commercials for free. They convince Homer to kill celebrities like George Clooney, Prince, and Neil Armstrong. Meanwhile, in heaven, the dead celebrities except Abraham Lincoln are furious about this. Krusty convinces them to descend from heaven and attack those who profited from these exploits. The dead celebrities attack the party, killing and shooting Chief Wiggum. Krusty is about to kill Homer, but Homer asks,
What is the one true religion?
Krusty answers a mix of voodoo and Methodist and kills Homer with a shotgun. When they return to heaven, they discover Homer locked them out as revenge and became close friends with Abraham Lincoln. It's the Grand Pumpkin, Milhouse. And then it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown parody. Milhouse waits in a pumpkin patch for the Grand Pumpkin on Halloween. Lisa stays with him to prevent his crying, but eventually leaves in frustration when she sees everyone at school having a Halloween party. Milhouse's belief brings the Grand Pumpkin to life, but when Milhouse offers pumpkin bread made from pumpkins, the Grand Pumpkin gets angry. Horrified by pumpkins being carved for Halloween and used for food, the Grand Pumpkin seeks revenge by eating people, including Homer, groundskeeper Willie, and Nelson. He also kills Principal Skinner. Lisa reveals Milhouse's belief can bring things to life and tells him about Tom Turkey, a symbol of Thanksgiving, who kills the Grand Pumpkin and frees those he ate. But Tom Turkey discovers the fate of turkeys on Thanksgiving and starts eating children. The scene then shifts to Marge, providing an address for complaints and wishing everyone happy holidays. Dial M for murder or press hash to return to main menu. Lisa and Bart end up in detention. They make a plan. Bart will get revenge on Miss Hoover for Lisa, and Lisa will seek revenge on Mrs. Krabappel for Bart. Lisa Ding Dong ditches Mrs. Krabappel while Bart actually kills Miss Hoover. Later, when Bart wants to figure out how girls pee, Lisa finds out that Bart killed Principal Skinner, after which Lisa proclaims that she has to kill Bart herself. While chasing him around with a knife, they eventually get onto a merry-go-round. Ultimately, choosing not to kill him, Lisa throws her knife in the air instead, which then plummets back down, killing Bart accidentally. Don't have a cow, mankind. In a parody of 28 Days Later and Children of Men, Kent Brockman reports on Krusty's new Burger Squared, made from cannibalistic cows. Kent, the first to take a bite, transforms into a pale, grey-eyed zombie called a Muncher. He bites Krusty, infecting him. In 28 days, the Muncher virus infects Springfield. Moe is captured but doesn't resist and suggests they wash him before eating him. In response, the Simpsons barricade their house, refusing entry to anyone, including Grandpa, who gets killed and infected. Bart sneaks out, eats a Burger Squared, and survives. Homer strangles Bart, then calls Dr. Hibbit, besieged by Munchers. Hibbit, fighting them off and getting bitten, suggests Bart might be immune and advises them to go to a safe zone. The family then attempts to sneak out to their undamaged car and head to the safe zone. Homer's loud relief attracts the entire Muncher population. They try to barricade the door, which fails, and they escape through various rooms, avoiding Munchers. Rainier Wolf Castle arrives but is quickly overwhelmed. Apu, infected due to his vegetarianism, and store clerk Stockpile rescues them in an armored SUV. While heading to the safe zone, Helen Lovejoy attacks the car. Marge, reluctant because Helen is Lisa's godmother, shoots her off the car. The SUV gets stuck in a junk pile at the dump, and Apu pushes it down but gets killed. The SUV runs out of fuel, forcing the Simpsons to walk to the safe zone, with Homer guarding them using an M14 rifle. While halfway there, they find an unconscious muncher, Mr. Burns. Homer mocks Burns, but Burns springs back to life and bites Homer, infecting him. The family notices Homer's changes. Bart grabs the rifle, but Marge takes it, explaining that Homer can be cured at the safe zone. At the safe zone, a soldier suggests they eat Bart to gain his immunity. Marge opposes this idea, advocating for an alternative. Sometime later, Lisa narrates that the world returns to normal. Survivors gain immunity, and the remaining munchers are cured by consuming soup with Bart's antibodies. Homer, still infected, is locked up because he won't eat the food his son has bathed in. There's no business like Mo business. In a parody of Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, Homer falls and gets impaled on a brewing machine in Moe's tavern. Moe lies to Marge, saying Homer wants to leave her to explore being gay. They drink beer mixed with Homer's blood, and Marge initially agrees, but Homer, still impaled, attacks Moe. Despite his situation, Marge continues to love Homer. During intermission, Kang and Kodos are in the audience. Kang praises the play as the best in light years, while Kodos corrects him about light years being a measure of distance. After the play ends, the cast sings a parody of the Simpson theme song, thanking the audience for enjoying the Halloween show. Roman numerals for 20 drop behind them. Kodos shushes the audience, pointing at Kang, who fell asleep with a playbill issue on his helmet.